Have you ever stopped to think about how African peoples emerged? The Bible, with its richness of narratives and genealogies, sheds light on these fascinating questions, revealing an intricate history that connects the trajectory of African peoples to post-flood events. Today, we will explore biblical lineages and the descendants of Noah, discovering the origin and diversity of black peoples. After the flood, Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, received distinct blessings and responsibilities to repopulate the earth. Each of these lineages gave rise to different ethnic groups and nations, contributing to human diversity. Shem was blessed by Noah and given the responsibility to repopulate the region that would later be known as the Middle East. He is often associated with Semitic peoples, including Hebrews and Arabs. Japheth was assigned the task of repopulating the regions that would encompass Europe and parts of Asia. Genesis chapter 9, verse 27 states, "May God enlarge Japheth." Meanwhile, Ham was designated to repopulate the region that would later be associated with Africa. Ham's descendants are often linked to African peoples. This division of responsibilities was symbolically represented by Noah's blessing upon his sons. Each was destined to play a role in populating the earth, contributing to the ethnic and cultural diversity that would emerge in subsequent eras. Thus, Ham and his descendants will be our focus in today's video. The Bible describes how one of Noah's sons and his lineage is often associated with African peoples, especially through his sons and grandsons. Among Ham's descendants, we find 4 notable sons: Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. These sons and their later descendants played significant roles in shaping the various peoples we know today, including African peoples. His son Mizraim is commonly identified and associated with the ancient Egyptian peoples. His name is often interpreted as 2 lands or 2 countries. This could reflect Egypt's geographical duality with its Upper and Lower Egypt regions, though it is not directly linked to physical characteristics. Besides Egypt, Mizraim is often connected to other regions of North Africa. Mizraim's influence extended not only geographically, but also culturally, contributing to the rich traditions and civilizations that developed along the Nile River's banks. His descendants were responsible for forming one of the most remarkable civilizations in history, ancient Egypt. Egyptian culture had a lasting impact not only in its region, but also in interactions with other civilizations over time. On the other hand, Put is associated with certain African regions, but his exact identification is less clear. Some scholars suggest that Put may be related to the peoples of the Horn of Africa. However, biblical references to Put are less detailed compared to other lineages. His son Canaan, though often mentioned in the Bible, is not considered the ancestor of African peoples, but rather of the Canaanites who inhabited the Middle Eastern region. This is an important distinction to avoid misconceptions when addressing genealogy and prevent undue generalizations about African peoples. An important account about Canaan is recorded in the book of Genesis, chapter 9, verses 20 to 27. The narrative begins with Noah, who after the flood planted a vineyard and drank from its wine, becoming drunk and laying uncovered in his tent. Ham saw Noah's nakedness and told his brothers Shem and Japheth, who were outside the tent. Unlike Ham, Shem and Japheth decided to respect their father's dignity. They took a cloak and placed it over their shoulders, walking backward with their faces turned away so as not to see him, covering their father's nakedness. The next morning, when Noah awoke from his drunkenness and learned what had happened, he was enraged and pronounced a curse upon Canaan, his grandson, Ham's son. Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem. May God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth. Here, it is worth making some important clarifications. First, it's crucial to emphasize that the curse was not directed at Ham, Canaan's father, but at Canaan, Noah's grandson. The second point is that by now in the video, I deserve your like and subscription to the channel. This will motivate us to bring more quality content. The third and most important point is that the curse of Canaan is often misinterpreted and wrongly associated with African peoples. It's important to note that Noah pronounced a curse on Canaan, saying he would be a servant to his brothers. This specific curse was directed at Canaan, not all of Ham's descendants, much less all African peoples. This misinterpretation has led to historical errors, such as justifying slavery based on false claims of divine curses, and it's essential to debunk this distorted interpretation, recognizing that the curse of Canaan was a specific punishment for him, not a sentence upon an entire region or continent. The Bible does not support the idea that the curse of Canaan justifies discriminatory treatment or the inferiority of any ethnic group. The correct interpretation should be based on understanding the cultural and historical context of the biblical narrative, avoiding unjust generalizations about African peoples or any other ethnic group. Finally, we have Cush, the firstborn son of Ham and Noah's grandson. Cush is often associated with Ethiopia and Sudan. His descendants are considered ancestors of the peoples who inhabited these regions, including the Ethiopians and Nubians. This lineage is also linked to the ancient Nubian kingdoms, known for their cultural and historical achievements. The name Cush, in turn, has been associated with the idea of black skin or black people. The meaning of the name may indicate distinct physical characteristics, including dark skin, which is often associated with African peoples. Cush is also known for fathering Nimrod. Genesis chapter 10 highlights that Cush was the father of Nimrod, who became a mighty warrior on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. At first, his kingdom included Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh in Shinar. From that land he went to Assyria, where he built Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, Calah, and Resen, which is between Nineveh and Calah, which is the great city. The city of Babel, in particular, became a significant center in biblical history. The book of Genesis recounts how the people, led by Nimrod, decided to build a tower that reached the heavens, known as the Tower of Babel. This ambitious endeavor was interpreted as an attempt to challenge divine authority. Thus, God intervened, confusing the language of all the city's inhabitants, resulting in the construction's halt, the dispersal of people across the world, and the multiplicity of spoken languages. We have a video on the channel that tells the entire story of the Tower of Babel in detail. You can watch it later. Continuing, the meanings of Ham's sons' names provide a basis for interpretations about the physical characteristics of the peoples associated with these biblical lineages. However, it is crucial to approach these interpretations with sensitivity and avoid generalizations. Recognizing that physical characteristics are diverse and cannot be simplified merely based on names. The Bible does not provide specific information about the exact age that each of Noah's sons lived. The longevity of biblical characters, including Ham, is often mentioned in genealogies, but in many cases no exact number of years is given. The biblical narrative highlights that Ham was one of Noah's sons, and thus would have been born before the flood. One explanation for this longevity is associated with the pre-flood condition. The biblical narrative suggests that environmental conditions were different and people enjoyed longer lives. This longevity is particularly evident in the genealogies presented in the book of Genesis. It is estimated that both Ham and Shem may have seen their fifth or sixth generation, living approximately 600 years each. Various theories and legends circulate around the burial place of Noah's sons, and these narratives vary across different traditions and cultures over time. It's important to note that these stories lack solid grounding in historical or archaeological evidence. In some traditions, it is speculated that Ham was buried in Africa, specifically in Sudan or Ethiopia. This idea is often related to Ham's association with African peoples. The Bible, along with the rich mythology and history of these regions, also contributes to speculation about his burial site. Another theory proposes that Ham was buried in Egypt. This suggestion may be linked to the historical connection between Egypt and African peoples, as well as Egypt's elaborate ancient funeral traditions. Many mythological and historical figures have been associated with tombs within the context of this ancient civilization. The Book of Jubilees reveals intimate details of Ham's life, including his strong disapproval of his youngest son, Canaan's decisions. Canaan audaciously decided to settle in the lands of Shem, which would become Israel. Ham, accompanied by his other sons, did not hesitate to rebuke Canaan for his imprudent decision. The disapproval was deep, as Shem and Cush instructed Canaan to leave those lands and move to the region designated for Ham's descendants, mysterious Africa. However, defying his father's will and ignoring the instructions given, Canaan persisted in inhabiting those lands. This disobedience cast a shadow over family relations, creating a narrative marked by tensions and decisions that would change the fate of the lands between Noah's descendants. Another curious detail brought by the Book of Jubilees is that Ham was responsible for founding the first city after the flood, named Nael. This city, whose name honored Ham's wife, reflected an attempt to establish civilization amid the ruins left by the flood. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel, leave your like and click on one of the 2 videos that will appear to continue watching us. Hugs, and may God be with you.